everyone and welcome. My name is Sarah Zaeyen. I'm a 3D character animator and mentor here in Animation Mentor. I had the pleasure to work on projects like feature film SuperKlaus, in-game animation, cinematics for a AAA game called A Quiet Place, and also for our Rollercoaster experiences, TV post-production and advertising. As many of you, my animation journey has been deeply shaped by the principles taught here in Animation Mentor, and it's a great honor for me to be able to give something back to this amazing community. Today, we're going to dive in one of my favorite topics that will elevate your shot from a good one to an unforgettable one: forced perspective and camera tricks. We will explore how to break the 3D world to create poses that are more dynamic, dramatic, and emotionally impactful. We will look behind the why we use this technique and the how by working in Maya by using a character of Animation Mentor. I will also show you one of my personal shots and a little surprise. So let's get started. Here we have Tina, our Animation Mentor character. And she's more or less in the same pose. But which one feels more powerful to you? It's the same character, but this one feels a little bit flattened out, and this feels deeper, feels more aggressive. I really feel like I could literally touch the sword of Tina. How is that done? What is the secret? Let's investigate that. So here I have a scene and we are looking through a camera and we are going to play now with the focal length of this camera. The focal length we're watching now is 50 millimeters. Consider that the human eye sees between 35 and 50 millimeters. So the average of a real human sight would be 44. But for this example, I want to stay in 50 millimeters. So first of all, I'm going to duplicate the cube and I'm going to press Shift-D. I'm going to move the cube around and then press again Shift-D, Shift-D, Shift-D. He will automatically remember the distance with the Shift-D. So what we see here is that the cubes are getting smaller based on the real world perspective. And that's correct. But it lacks a little bit of emotion. So let's talk about depth. If we select our camera over here and we change the focal length, this time to 120 millimeters. Look at that. Everything is flattened out. The cubes feel equally big. This is a good angle, a good camera angle for portraits, but it's completely killing our depth. So this is not our choice. Let's select the camera again and let's play with the focal length on the other side. Let's go to a 35 millimeters lens. Now you see the lines are getting more interesting and the scale of the cube is changing, but let's push it even more. Boom! Welcome to the wide-angle world. Look at the distortion of this cube. Look how interesting that is. And also look at the depth. The first cube feels so close, while the last cube over here feels miles away. So this is much better, but we can do more. Let's go back to our 50 millimeter lens. Like that. Look what happens if I scale the cubes. So, and this is what we do as animators. We take the reality and we sculpt it. We create our own perspective. Look at this line now. Look how dynamic that is. Look how much energy it has. And it's really pulling your eye forward with an incredible force. This is what we do as animators. We try to deform the reality to get something out of that. So the golden rule here is we first start our shot with a wide lens. If we're not getting the energy we want, we start to cheat the character itself. With that said, let's go back to Tina. So here we have an inception of Tina. We're gonna hide this one. And we are going to this pose over here. So this was the first pose we had. And we want to work with this. Let's start like we did with the cubes. Let's first copy this pose over here so that we have a starting point. Awesome. So first of all, I want to change the focal length like we did before. So we go here and we change this to 12 millimeters. This is better. You can also see that on the checker on the background. This is has more depth and more dynamism. But I want more. I want this sword to feel epic. I want this grip to feel stronger. So how are we gonna do that? So right now we're going to cheat the character. We're going to break the rig. Don't be afraid to do this. So let's start with the lattice I prepared before. To applicate the lattice on the sword, you have to have the sword on the origins. Then you applicate the lattice. Then I constrained the lattice to the sword. And then I positioned the sword where I want it to be and constrained the hands to it. So a little tip on how I build up the scene. Let's play around with it. So let's get this sword epic. I'm going to select the lattice points like that. Then I'm going to press B. This will activate the soft selection. And if I want to widen the influence of the soft selection, I have to press the B button and the middle button. Once I have the area of interest that I want to change, I'm going to start playing around with it. So I will deactivate the soft selection and go to the lattice points. I'm going to deselect those, and those. Activate the soft selection again. Scale tool on. And I'm working here, but I'm watching here, because this is what is the most important thing. I want to deform things for the camera, for the audience. So I'm going to play with the lines to emphasize what the lens is already doing. So those distortions of the lines. I like it this way. So we can hide our lattice. And maybe we can make the sword also a little bit bigger all around. Like that. Yes. What else can we do? I could push the perspective by scaling other objects. So the hands are forward. So the objects that are closer to camera are bigger and the ones that are backwards are smaller. I'm going to emphasize that, push that even further. Not like that. Like that. And I want the head to be a little bit smaller. Now it's too small. Yeah, I like this amount. And what else? I'm going to activate Animbot. That's an amazing plugin to help you do things quicker. I'd advise to use that if you are already an advanced animator, because it's important that you learn those things from scratch first. Now I'm going to rotate the character towards. This tool will make me a temporary pivot of the objects I've selected to be able to rotate it all in once. Why am I doing this? Because more overlapping geometry we have, and stronger the forced perspective will be. So what I'm trying to do is emphasize what the lens is giving me and push it even more with giving more layers of readability. So I rotate the character like that. This is nice. And now I'm going to rotate the sword as well. So I want this sword, this line of the hand, of the arm is pretty horizontal. So I want to push this. So if I press V and left button, I can change the orientation of the manipulator. Now I'm working in world space. That will help me get what I want. So I want to have this further. I want this to overlap a little bit more. Like that. Now I have the hands overlapping each other. I want this line of this little piece helping to, if I extend this line, I don't want them to be parallel to the leg, but so I want to open up perspective of this. So I'm going to rotate this like that and point the sword even more in camera. Yes, like that. Now, I don't like to have the head so frontal to me. So what I'm going to do is to rotate this, give it a little bit, push the line of action a little bit more, and tuck the head a little bit deeper. And I want even more of this sword forward. Maybe a little bit more like that. And I'm going to push her body a little bit more forward because she's not afraid. She's just aggressive. What if I really do this? Yes, I like that. Too much, a little bit less. Yes. So I have a little bit of overlap of this arm over her chin. But let's emphasize that even more. Going to push this further. And her head lower. I want also to break a little bit of this line that's so straight. So I'm going to take both of this. So I'm gluing it together. And like that, so that I have a nice line of action over here. And let's widen the stands also to open up this pose even more. Like that, so that this leg wasn't vertical anymore. And let's scale this foot, this back foot. Let's make it even smaller. And this front foot, let's push it over here and rotate it a little bit to give it to follow the line of action, but without losing the silhouette of the foot. And then let's scale this up because this is a front foot. And we want to have it bigger. Now, what we can do here is play with the face as well. We have many areas where we can overlap stuff. So one tool we have that's very helpful. Here the camera is locked so that I will not be accidentally move around and screw it up. But if I have to watch closer, we can press backslash. It will deactivate this tool. This is the pan and zoom tool. And with the tool activated, I keep backslash pressed. And if I press the right button and I drag, I can zoom. And with the middle button, I can pan. And this is very helpful when I'm focusing on an expression in one of my shots and I don't want to go crazy in the perspective and I want to check out really what's happening on camera. That's the most important thing. So once we have set it up, what we want to see, I'm going to open those eyes because somebody that's angry is really opening their eyes. And while I move the up lid up, I need to adjust also the lower lid. Let's pull up also those corners. This, and let's give it a little bit of asymmetry. So this eyes will be a little bit more close than the other one. Don't be afraid to break the rig. The important thing is what the audience sees through the lens. So what I'm gonna do now is to push this eyebrow lower and this one even more, and curve it also a little bit. So let's make her super angry. Yes. And let's change also her mouth. I want to push the perspective on her face as well. So I'm going to rotate this and push this over here. Push this over there. Even more. Now, let's push this up a little bit. And I don't want to see as many teeth. And I want to see just, let's say, the upper teeth. Like, very angry one. Pull this up. Pull this up. Pull this down a little bit. I'm breaking it, I know, but I don't care. The important thing is what we see in our camera. That. So it kind of works like that. Let's round this a little bit up. Yes. Let's push this even further. You see, here we see the gums, but if we don't see them over here, then it's fine. Okay. What else? We can push the nose. Yes. Let's give it a nice sneer. Wow. I like that. I'm exaggerating. But you know, we are also watching her from far away, so it makes sense also to exaggerate a little bit. To help the readability of what we're doing. So yes. Now we have it. Now it feels a lot stronger. Let's fix the hair a little bit here. We have an intersection. Clean this up. I want to have a nice clean shape. And yes, now we have many areas of overlap. The sword is overlapping this. This is overlapping the hand. It's overlapping the hand. And we have the front arm overlapping the back part and the shoulders. And this is overlapping the chin. So this is working so much better. Okay. Let's check on this one. You see, in the perspective view, it looks pretty broken. Especially the arms are super stretched out. And the feet are not making real sense. And well, without talking about the mouth, it's completely deformed. But what is important really is what we see here in the lens, in the camera. So if it's broken, who cares? The only thing that matters is what the audience sees, because this is our canvas. So we don't just randomly break things. I want to show you also an exercise. This principles applied to one of my personal shots. Some time.
I ate a bug. Oh, it's in my throat. It's still moving. Ugh, shit. I ate another bug. Go get something to drink. Ah, it's mating with the other one. Hate nature.
So you see, there was nothing wrong. Everything was working, clean, nothing weird. But let's watch behind the curtain. 1 second. Here we have the scene. And in exact this position, if we scroll through that, I will show you. Here everything is all right. Look at that. This is broken. So at first I've been scaling up the thumb because I want the audience to see this clearly. So to make sure this was visible, I scaled it, but the audience may not see that it's scaling. It just needs to be bigger. And I also completely deformed the neck and broke it, basically. Look at this. It's completely broken. But it was helping serve the pose. Otherwise, the neck was feeling way too long and the pose wasn't working enough. And also the face, if you look at it, it's completely deformed. But you know what? It doesn't matter. The only thing that we have to be aware when we break the character in our scene is the shadows, because a weirdly shaped character can cast weirdly shaped shadows. So always check your lighting. With that said, I have a little surprise, and here we have this amazing image made by Cameron Pratt. He's one of our animation mentor ninjas, and he made this wonderful presentation of 3 shot types. So here we have first the wide or very long shot, and this is very helpful to be able to read the silhouette and to emphasize the scale between the characters. So we can really feel the power of one personality against the other one. And it gives also a clear view about the scene in general. So if you are cutting in a different environment, having a wide shot will help the audience orientate themselves on where they are. Then we have a long or full shot. This shot is like we did before. It's showing the full pose and it gives some emotional connection. And usually we use that with a 3/4 angle or almost. And then we have our medium or mid shot. This gives us the opportunity to get a very strong emotional connection because it's great to show some little details, nuances. For example, here in the drawing, he made this little drops of sweat. So it really conveys the energy of and the emotional state of the character itself because we can see it and we connect with the eyes. Remember that the audience is always attracted by the eyes. It's always following those. So those are magnets for the viewer. Keep that in mind in your animations. And it plays well with foreshortening. And if we use a wide angle, it will emphasize the character to feel small. So we could have done that as well on our shot, but that was not our goal. So with this said, so the philosophy behind the reality. As animators, we are not documentarians. Our job is not to copy the reality as it is. Our job is to create a believable emotion. We have the power to break what a real world lens can give us. But we don't break stuff just for the sake of it. We do it with a purpose. We do it to guide the audience eye, to emphasize an emotion, to gain energy, and to tell a better story. So, wrapping up, to recap, First of all, start with a wide-angle lens to create some depth. Second, don't be afraid to break the rig. Really sculpt your pose towards the lens. Third, remember the why, to serve the story and the motion. Now it's your turn. I invite you to take one of your shots, maybe an exercise that you have done here in Animation Mentor, and apply those principles. Let's see how dynamic you can create your shot. With that said, thank you so much for watching, and a huge thank you to Animation Mentor for having me. Now go and create some awesome animation. Bye!